Well then, hello there everybody. I'm Lost, and lately a lot of you guys have been asking about my opinion, my full and unfiltered thoughts about the Elden Ring network test, and I decided I wanted to give that to you guys. Now, originally I wanted to create something a little bit more scripted, but I decided, you know what, no, that just feels wrong, so instead I'm just going to speak and talk from the heart. That does mean that this video is probably going to be somewhat less structured than some other videos that I've made in the past, but you know what? It's something that I think is important, that I speak just truthfully and straight from the gut. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing I do want to mention, even though the focus on this video is going to be on the PvP, the PvE seems like it's going to be the best ever. Traversal seems incredible. The new jump that they added to Elden Ring seems like it's going to be a godsend, quite frankly, sprucing up a gameplay formula that you could argue was growing a little bit stale. With this whole new dimension, you will now be able to create much more compelling levels. Traversing the lands of Elden Ring will be way more fun with your horse, and all of that just seems so good. The amount of build variety and the fact that you can now change weapon arts on your weapons will also increase the replayability of the game, at least from a PvE perspective, because you can try all of these new and different things. There will probably be months of content coming out after release, specifically designed to enhance your experience in PvE. Have you tried this build yet? No. Have you tried this build yet? No. Have you tried this weapon with this weapon art? Oh, it's so good. So from that perspective, it seems limitless, and I'm so happy, and already I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is a game of the year, especially for the people who are mostly interested in just going at the PvE aspect of the game. As far as PvP is concerned, well, I'm sad to say that it feels to me like they have taken a step back. It feels to me like they tried to fix something that wasn't really broke, and in the effort to create a new system, it has taken a step backwards. Let me put this into perspective. If the fun factor of Dark Souls 3 PvP is a 10, I think the fun factor of Elden Ring is a 6.5, a 7, around that. I'm not entirely certain, but that's how I felt towards the end of it. Towards the end of the network test, I was going into a lot of fights, and I'm a very experienced PvPer, and I simply didn't see how I could possibly win a lot of the fights that I was put into. But it needs to be said that both I and everybody else who was playing through the network test, we're coming from a perspective of ignorance. There's a lot of things that we don't know yet, and hell, FromSoft has even responded to a few complaints saying that they're still not done, they're still testing, they're still adjusting aspects of it, so a lot of things can change. But what is it that we don't really know? Well, we don't have the Poise system clearly defined for us. We know that there's at least a little bit of active Poise. There's a little bit of passive Poise. You see, passive Poise is what you have in Dark Souls 1, where you can just walk towards somebody and tank a hit. In Dark Souls 3, you had active Poise, which became a meme, but which I thought was way better. It's that once you have a swing, and if you have enough poise and your opponent swings towards you, you can tank that hit and you can keep swinging, while the other guy, if they don't have enough poise, they will be stunned. You know, it's basically a hyper armor, and I thought that was probably the best implementation of that system. Now, the fact that we get a little bit of active poise, a little bit of passive poise, is certainly going to change things up. If passive Poise don't get too powerful, well, it could be a fun and interesting addition to it, but yeah, we don't truly know. It's fascinating that in the network test there was no Poise statistic. They had removed that, but in the 16 minutes of Elden Ring gameplay that they had shown us earlier, there was an actual Poise statistic there. They paused the game at some point to show off a menu, and you could clearly see Poise existing. So this is a system that apparently is up in flux. They have not finalized it yet, and yeah, that's going to be interesting. We also don't know a lot about the weapons and the gear. Okay, we do know a few things, and we do know a few of the moves and all of that, but one of the issues in the network test was that we did very little damage, especially as an invader. We did very little damage, and maybe that is something that can change if you play Elden Ring with fully fleshed out characters, you know, with plus 10 weaponry, but we'll have to wait and see. If we do get plus 10 weaponry, we might be able to actually take on a lot of the ganks that we fought in Elden Ring, which is good, because ganks are now way more powerful, and that's compounded by the fact that we almost exclusively will invade co-opers, because that's one of the things that they decided to change. And in addition to that, we also have blues involved, and oh boy, the blues are they get called in quick. So it seems like for an invader there's been a lot of stacking the deck against us, which I can kind of understand in one sense, but I felt like the deck was stacked against us pretty good in Dark Souls 3, and it seems like I think we almost became too good at Dark Souls 3, and so FromSoft decided, hey, all of those newbies, they're gonna need some extra help, so let's just make them extra powerful. We are handicapped way more. Yeah. You see, there are no true combos here in the game. You can get one hit in, that's it. That's one of the pleasures of Dark Souls 3. If you have an Ultra and you get one hit, you are guaranteed the next hit, because then you'll get some great damage. In Elden Ring, you do one hit and they will be able to roll out of everything else. Now, doesn't matter if that's a dagger or if that is your if it's your great swords that you're power stancing. There was some good power stancing there, but that really was really painful, especially because we did so little damage to the opponents. But the ganks can stunlock you. There's infinite stunlock, and it will just drain you of all health, and that's incredibly frustrating, to the point where at the end of the network test, I feel like a lot of co-opers had kind of figured this one out, and so I didn't have a lot of fun. I was quite frankly, I was more frustrated than I was having fun towards the end, especially with the co-opers. Now, maybe FromSoft is thinking, okay, well, the invaders need to now take way more advantage of, well, enemies, you know, the mobs. And that's something we do in Dark Souls 3 as well, but I don't think they realize that human nature is to sit by the bonfire or sit by a place of grace and just wait for the invader to come to them, you know? Which means there will be a lot of waiting, if that happens at all, which is quite a shame. Yeah, it seems like your skill level doesn't matter as much in Elden Ring as it does in Dark Souls 3. Another thing that really contributes to that whole issue is that magic is now way more aggressive, it's way more powerful, it comes out really quickly, and the homing element of these spells can be quite insane. It's very powerful, and I know that a lot of people have asked for magic to be better, and congratulations, it really is. Unfortunately, if you fight like several mages at this point, you might find yourself being cut to pieces by a million different Farron darts, which is also not very fun. Hopefully that is something that they will balance. Hopefully there might be different armors that will give us more protection, or maybe there might be some spells that just cuts out magic completely, like Vow of Silence, for example. That would be fantastic if they just give us a little time to actually make use of it. Please, make it last for a while, not like 10 or 15 seconds or whatever. One thing I know a lot of people know is that backstabs, they are nerfed, which is... I mean, I don't like that. I don't have as much of a problem with that as maybe some of my other YouTuber friends. I did manage to get a few backstabs. I mainly got backstabs after people tried to do a jumping attack on me, specifically a heavy jumping attack. I got a few backstabs right there, but it is clear as day that backstabs are not going to be as viable. I think that is something that they should change. I think that backstabs were in a pretty good place in Dark Souls 3. And I feel like, yeah, I know there's a lot of people complaining about certain things, and there was also people bringing up to me things that, hey, that was some of these things that I'm complaining about is things that people complained about when Dark Souls 3 was first released. And I think at the end of the video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the other people's perspective. Just letting you guys know that. But for me, yeah, no, I feel like backstabs were in a good place. And that's a step in the wrong direction. Strength is also now tied to equip load, which I think is the wrong way to go. I don't know. This is something that I am very unsure of. It makes me a little worried. I know a lot of people think that, yes, this makes sense. You know, because if you're a strong dude, you can carry more stuff, and which is fine, but you have to remember that, you know, this is a video game. A video game shouldn't be true to real life if it makes the game less fun. I mean, Jesus Christ, there is a stat in the game that allows you to level up your luck in Discovery. If I could do the same in real life, I certainly would, but I think that if strength is tied to equip load, every single build now, every single one, will have access to certain strength weapons, and it might lead to less build variety, or more builds being able to wield all weapons. I don't know, it just seemed like a bit of a weird way, but hey, that's fine. I also again want to say that a big issue for me in the network test was the lack of damage, and I really hope this is a network test thing, because I mean, I was doing 70 damage when I was swinging my swords, and that equates to about 1/15th, 1/18th of the actual enemy's health. And when you combine that with 1 or 2 phantoms, well, that is going to be that's going to be painful. Also, yeah, true combos were lacking. You get the one hit and not the best. It's not all doom and gloom though. I feel like I had some great duels. In duels, I do feel like There was some nice strategy. One thing I probably neglected to mention is that I feel like the game feels slower. Maybe that is because I didn't get to do a lot of damage. That might be part of it. But the game feels a little slower. It feels a little like Demon Souls-ish. You know, I don't want to go too far in that direction, but because of that, I want to say that combat was more measured, which was fun when I was actually fighting single opponents. There was a lot of cool strategies to try out, like jumping attacks were really good, and we also had the block mechanic. You know, you block an attack and then you can do a counter attack, and that counter attack is pretty strong. I did that with the lance and I did get some decent damage out of that. So I will probably be doing some duels then when Elden Ring pops out. But that's not why I love Dark Souls or the Souls series or Invasions. What I love most about these games are the cat and mouse aspect of it, you know. You can be the hunter or you can be the hunted. You set up ambushes, which you definitely can now. And if we get more and stronger weapons in Elden Ring, that might still be the case. But what Dark Souls also brought to the table was really cool, sustained fights. These fights lasted a little while, but I felt like they were a true test of skill in a lot of cases, especially if you are a red that goes up against a host and his phantoms. And I think that Elden Ring will probably lose some of this foundation. I feel like Dark Souls 3's combat is in a really good spot, especially with the 2-hit combo. I know that certain people in my chat actually has mentioned that they find R1 a little one-dimensional, but I disagree. There's a lot of things you can do with the R1. I remember if I'm walking around with my mace, there is the poise element to think about. You can poise through a weapon, and you can also play mind games with a person, especially if they are hit. You have one R1 and then you wait a moment, they jump away and then you roll catch and then they roll catch. Listen, if you've been watching my videos for a while now, and we're 16 minutes into this? Alright, cool. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that roll catching is some of my favorite things to do. So those fights are awesome. If Elden Ring is reduced to like really sneaky ninja stuff, that is probably going to be a lot of fun for a while, but I don't think that it will have the same appeal, or at least the same longevity as Dark Souls 3. You know, when I think of it, I don't necessarily think that backstabs or the difficulty of getting backstabs could be all that bad. If you increase the damage of a backstab, that might be really good then, because you could actually use a backstab as a real ambush tool instead of outmaneuvering your opponent. Because that's what happens in Dark Souls 3 now. We use backstabs when we outmaneuver our opponents. Instead, while the people are sneaking around in the level, we might just come around a corner and stab them in the back while they're waiting for something, and that could be fun. I think also, now that I am in the midst of just speculating here, I think a lot of the fights that I experienced in the network test well, most of the fights that I experienced in the network test were in the actual open area of the overworld, or it was in the closed areas of a few dungeons. And these dungeons, they weren't all that complex. There weren't a lot of parkour, which I kind of expect now. There is going to be a lot of things to say with the whole jumping thing, but there wasn't a lot of terrain that you could use to your advantage, at least not in the areas that I invaded. Maybe I should have tried to invade in a few other areas, but that's not my experience. But after you went through the, let's say, the main boss of the network test, I'm not going to mention him here because I do not want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't played it or aren't going to play it. Although if you are, you know, I don't know how many minutes into this video, you'll probably say, oh, that's fine, I played through it. Anyways, after the final boss, you could go and sneak through a little bit of Godric's castle, or at least on the outside. And when you were going through that path, well, it was a dangerous one. There was a lot of different sneaky areas. There's a lot of ambush opportunities, and you have to watch your feet as much as you watch your opponent in certain cases, because hey, there are falls and dangers everywhere. So if I, as an invader, can take advantage of that, I mean, that would be great. I also want to say that while I did have a rather negative experience, especially towards the end, I mean, it's not all negative, as I said, it's probably a 6.5 or 7. I know that a few of my streamer buddies, for example, Jason Shar, he had a very positive experience. Chase the Bro is probably very much on my side of it. We talked about this extensively, and well, yeah, we pretty much see eye to eye. Napstar F, he's probably more negative than I am, but I think that we all recognize that things can change, and what I find hopeful is that, well, there's not a lot of things that they need to change. They need to change the values of certain things. For example, the values of Poise. We'll have to see how that turns out. I really hope they have a second network test, actually, so we can try out the change in Poise, if there is going to be one. And the homing of arrows, that's an easy number to reduce. That type of thing. I also want to mention that there are some, quite frankly, hilarious moments that I had in Elden Ring. And you've probably seen a few of them if you watched my videos, but in my first invasion video, I was fighting a guy, and his phantom was drinking Estus, and I was jumping away, and suddenly one of his phantoms exploded, and I was like, what the hell was that? Turns out, in Elden Ring, you have the ability to create explosive Estus, which I thought was brilliant. Just brilliant. You think you're punishing somebody who's drinking Estus? Well, here we go! That's a brilliant mind game. And in the first case, the guy exploded because he didn't have enough health to tank his own hit, right? But the second time, when I actually learned about this trick, I did manage to kill a few phantoms myself through the use of boom juice, and that was just amazing. I really hope that you brought a cup of coffee or something to this, because, well, this turned into a podcast, didn't it? Kinda. Well, I think that's all that I have on my list of talking points. I do really want to be proven wrong, guys. Oh, actually, there's one more talking point I have. I talked about how certain people have complained about things in the past. I know that it was brought up in my streams multiple times how, well, this was the same things they said when you went from Dark Souls 2 to Dark Souls 3. And to that I say I have no idea. I don't know. I'm not people. I'm just lost. Yeah, I'm not a scientist, but these are just my experiences in it. And I usually don't really go through forums and read what other people have to say about it. I just usually go and do my own thing. I listen to my friends and I read what people say in chat, but other than that, I don't really seek out other people's opinions on this. Because, you know, it's not really relevant. If you enjoy it, that's great. Doesn't really. I'm not gonna play it if I don't like it, but I'm not gonna judge you for enjoying it. In fact, as I said, I think some people will love Elden Ring more than any other game they have ever experienced. Yeah. I guess that wasn't the biggest talking point, was it? At this point, trying to drag things out of my head, but they are done. They are gone. If you watched this far into the video, comment down below in the comments. Comment goat bump. Give me a goat pump, y'all. It's like a fist bump, but you make like goats instead. Goat bump, right? I'm so stupid. Doesn't matter. I love you guys. And I'll see you later.